Hey guys, welcome to the Awesome Padron Show. With the Obi-Wan Kenobi show coming out onto Disney Plus starting in May 27th, I really wanted to go and watch the Clone Wars and Rebels, two shows that are both animated shows but have really good reviews and a lot of people really talking about them. And especially Clone Wars I wanted to watch before the Obi-Wan show, because with The Mandalorian introducing a lot of characters from that show into live action, I figure there's probably going to be a few here and there that pop up in the Obi-Wan show. And with Rebels, I really want to watch that because I know that the Inquisitors had a pretty big role in that show as well. So I went ahead and watched both. I'm going to do a review for both, and this one's going to be over the Clone Wars. So this video is going to be filled with spoilers, so just a spoiler warning. But before I do go into the spoilers, I just want to say that the Clone Wars was surprisingly really good. I got really invested in a lot of it. I know a lot of people, me included, are probably put off by it because it's animated and the animation style is a little bit weird to get used to. But the story and the writing is really great. There are some cheesy moments. There's some moments that are obviously more geared towards kids, but overall, I really feel like it really does a good job of setting up Revenge of the Sith and setting up Anakin's turn to the dark side and Palpatine's rise to power and how he was manipulating a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and it showed that a lot in this show, which I really enjoyed. So I'd really recommend watching it if you haven't yet, especially before the Obi-Wan show, because you never know what or who or anything that's going to be brought up. And now I'm going to go into spoilers, but I'm probably not going to go into spoilers right away. Just a heads up, from here on out, there could potentially be spoilers, so there's just your warning. This show I started watching, and the first season was all right. I didn't hate it. But I did take a break at a certain point. I can't remember which episode it was in the first season, but I took a break watching it. I didn't watch any of it for a while. And then I came back probably like a month, maybe 2 months later, and I picked back up watching it. And thankfully I did, because the last episode of the first season, the one that I'm pretty sure introduced Cad Bane. I know he was in it. I'm pretty sure it was the first episode he was in. That episode really got me hooked, and then the first two or three episodes of the next season, season 2, featured Cad Bane as well. And from then on, I was pretty hooked. Cad Bane, honestly, is a really cool character. I know he was introduced in the Boba Fett show, I was really excited because I was in the middle of watching it. I was probably like on season 3 or 4, and I even told a few of my friends that like Cad Bane is a pretty cool character. And then like literally just like a week or two later was when he popped up in an episode Boba Fett. So that was really exciting. I haven't watched the Boba Fett show, but I am excited to see that whenever I get to it. I also didn't watch the movie that came before all this. I think it came out in 2008, and then the show started in the same year, if I'm not wrong. I didn't even know that the show really existed, to be honest. I didn't know you're supposed to watch it first, but I have seen a lot of people say that the movie isn't that great, and really the only thing that you need to know from it is it introduced Ahsoka Tano in that movie. But I already knew Ahsoka Tano was in the show, so I didn't really need to be introduced to her, because I knew she was Anakin's Padawan, pretty much. So I already knew who she was. So it wasn't jarring to me that bad, but it would have been nice to have seen her introduction. And the animation style, like I brought up earlier, it really threw me off pretty badly at first. But over time, I really got used to the animation style. And I think it had to do with the fact that over time, the animation itself got better and better. As technology advanced more and more with these types of shows, and probably the fact that it got more and more popular as it went on also helped it. But the animation does get better as you go on. So if you stopped watching some of the earlier seasons, I really recommend continuing, because not only does the animation get better, but the stories get better and better. I'm pretty sure it was the second season when they started doing like a few episodes, a story arc over a few episodes, instead of each episode being its own story, which I think really helped it, because it really helped me to get invested in the storylines instead of it being over in like 25 minutes. it was stretched over 2, 3, 4 episodes. So that really helped me get invested in the show more as well. And it was able to dive into a lot more of the characters that way too, because it wasn't jumping all over the place, because they were able to focus on one story at a time for a while. But I think the main thing that really got me hooked with this show was just the way they portrayed Anakin in the show was a lot better than what the movies did. I mean, I understand what the movies were going for. They were going for more like not immature, but like kind of like that. I just can't think of the word right now. But a younger Anakin that is a little more whiny, has a lot more problems being social, I guess. But in this show, you really feel like Anakin is like a hero and somebody that kids and other people look up to and soldiers look up to. The voice actor, Matt Lanter, I believe, I hope I'm not messing up the name. He does a really good job playing Anakin in this show, because his voice is a lot different than Hayden Christensen's in the movies. And the Anakin's character feels very, very different in this show compared to the movies. It's kind of hard to picture them being the same character, honestly. But I think it's for the better, because this show really dives into his character and shows that he has. I mean, obviously the movies show this too, but this show does a really good job at showing how much of the dark side he has in him. Not necessarily dark side, but the potential to falling to the dark side, because there's several moments where he does questionable things, or he acts out in anger, or lets his emotions get the better of him. And I really love how in those moments they would always play some rendition of the Darth Vader theme music, because it just showed or like foreshadowed that fall to the dark side pretty well throughout this show.
I don't need mind tricks to get you to talk.
I will never talk, Jedi.
We'll see about that, Padron.
And it really makes his fall that much more tragic in Revenge of the Sith with this show, how he's portrayed, because he is more of like a hero figure in this show. He's more confident. He just has this charisma to him that makes him really likable in this show, honestly. And like, you really feel like if he was a real person, it would be somebody you would look up to. So to know that someone like that could have fallen to the dark side and still have it make sense that, yeah, I can see how he could have fallen to the dark side, it still makes it really more tragic than just watching the prequel movies by itself. Now, a lot of people say this, but this show really does solidify or justify the prequels. It really makes the prequels better in a sense, or at least Revenge of the Sith. James Arnold Taylor does a really good job at Obi-Wan's voice. Like, it legitimately sounds like Ewan McGregor talking. So whenever he had a scene, it just felt like Ewan McGregor was voicing him. It's funny that the only like movie actor that was in this show was Liam Neeson for like 2 episodes. I remember the first episode he was in, like, I heard his voice. I was like, is that actually Liam Neeson? And I had to like look it up, and I was like, oh crap, it is Liam Neeson. So that was cool. D. Bradley Baker does a really good job with all the clones. I think it's an unpopular opinion, but I like the clones decently, but I don't think I like the clones as much as a lot of people do. I mean, they're fine, but a lot of the clone heavy episodes, which there's not that many of them, but there are a few. Those weren't really my taste, but I mean, they're still fine episodes, but I do think I like the clones a little bit less than a lot of people do. And it's not necessarily that I don't like them, it's just that they're not some of my favorites. They did have a few moments where that I really love. I think there was like this one episode where they found this one clone who had defected from the army, and he started raising a family. And I think it was Rex, it was Rex or Cody, I'm pretty sure it was Rex, who found him and had to decide whether he had to bring him in or just let him keep living his life as a free person, not a soldier. So that was pretty interesting. They did do a good job at showing that these clones have individualism to them, even though they are made and bred to be soldiers, they each had their own little quirks, their own personalities, their own people. And I really loved how the Jedis really bonded with them, especially like Anakin. He had a really close attachment to Rex, who was his first in command, and a lot of the clones respected him. And I did like that aspect. And it is pretty cool that they had a little retcon, I think it was in season 6, where that showed that the clones had a chip in their head that was implanted in them when they were created, and they all have them. And that's what led to them killing the Jedi when Order 66 is commanded, because originally it never really made sense to me how and why the clones turned on the Jedi so quickly. Whenever Palpatine told them to initiate Order 66, it kind of happened pretty dramatically. I mean, their relationship with the clones and the Jedi wasn't shown as much in the movies as it is in the show, but I did like how they gave that explanation in the show. That is a chip in their brain. It was almost like in Rogue One, how they did that retcon where the person who created the Death Star intentionally put that little weakness in it because he didn't want to create the Death Star. He didn't want to do that for the Empire. So it is cool how they're able to come up with cool ways to explain things that don't really make sense in these movies. So it's really cool that it now makes complete sense. And it also just shows how much manipulation Palpatine did throughout this entire saga, because he was able to create an army for the Republic who technically were still under his control, and he could flip the kill switch whenever he wanted to. And another really cool thing that the show did, which at first I was really against when I heard about that they did it, was bringing back Darth Maul. I don't really like Star Wars continuing to bring back characters that died in the movies, but they say, oh, they didn't actually die. Palpatine being the worst example in Rise of Skywalker, but then you have Boba Fett, who they brought back, Maul, who they brought back. But I think the reason why I think I'm okay with Maul coming back, whereas Palpatine was, well, I mean, there's no comparison between Palpatine coming back and Maul coming back. But the reason I'm a little more inclined to Maul coming back is because his death in Phantom Menace wasn't like a turning point in the story. Like, for example, I think a lot of people want Mace Windu to have survived what happened in Revenge of the Sith, and I really think that I wouldn't really like that, because his death was pretty much the official turning point of Anakin into Darth Vader. So it was a monumental moment in this saga. So him surviving that would really cheapen that moment. Whereas I don't think Maul dying in Phantom Menace, or actually surviving in Phantom Menace, I don't think it really cheapens that moment. In fact, this series, Clone Wars and Rebels, really enhanced that, because now he has this huge revenge plan and drive to get back at Kenobi. So that really was an interesting aspect of the Clone Wars and Rebels. And I think that really brings me to the last 4 episodes of the Clone Wars. The last 4 episodes, they just felt like, I mean, obviously they made it out to be pretty separate from the rest of it, because the intro is different. So there's not the music at the beginning that was in the beginning of every other episode. The Clone Wars logo is red. There's like a title card that happens. It felt like this is what we've been wanting to do this entire time for Clone Wars, which is exciting that they got to do that, because I know that it got canceled in after season 6 in like 2014, I believe. And then it wasn't until 2020, whenever the final season, season 7, was released by Disney. So I can't imagine having to wait 6 years, especially not knowing if it was ever going to come back. Having to wait that time to see how it ended, because a lot of the reason why I was so invested in the show was because I wanted to see how it led into Revenge of the Sith and Order 66. I mean, I didn't think that they were going to show Order 66, but I wanted to see how they led into Revenge of the Sith. So it was exciting that they were able to do that in these last 4 episodes. And man, let me tell you that those last 4 episodes are probably some of the best pieces of Star Wars media I've seen probably ever, honestly. Like the siege of Mandalore and the confrontation between Maul and Ahsoka Tano was just so great because there's so much weight to it. Like you knew as an audience, you knew that what Maul was saying was true, that Palpatine was grooming Anakin to become his new apprentice. And just putting your mindset of into Ahsoka Tano, like it doesn't make any sense. Like you would never believe that Anakin would turn to the dark side. So you understand why she was so against Maul and what he was saying, but at the same time, it's like he's telling the truth. So it was a great confrontation between them. The fight scene between them two was great. I think they did motion capture. They brought Ray Park back from Phantom Menace, who played Darth Maul in Phantom Menace. They brought him back to do motion capture, I believe. It's one of the best lightsaber fights as well because of the weight of that moment. And just a side note with bringing up Mandalore, honestly, any episode with Mandalore as the central point of the story arc, all of the Mandalore story arcs were just great. Like going into it, I kind of figured it was going to have a little bit to do with the Mandalorian lore, but I didn't know that there's going to be like so many episodes about Mandalore. There's probably a story arc that's set in Mandalore for each season. I don't know if that's true or not, but it really felt like it. I know there's a lot of story arcs that had to do with Mandalore. And it's really interesting that they gave Obi-Wan love interest. Well, the Duchess of Mandalore was someone that Obi-Wan really loved in the past. And he even said that he would leave the Jedi Order if she ever said the word, and agreed to run away with them pretty much.
Satine, this is hardly the time or place for... All right. Had you said the word, I would have left the Jedi Order.
And I really feel like that really gives a lot of depth to Obi-Wan, and especially like knowing Anakin's turn to the dark side was because he was trying to save Padme, the one he loved. I would feel that gives more impact to just Obi-Wan and just in general, because he knows what that feels like to love someone but not being able to be with them because the Jedi Order doesn't allow it. I just really love that addition to it. And hopefully they bring that up in the Obi-Wan show. I know Sabine Wren, the Mandalorian character from Star Wars Rebels, is gonna they've already said that she's gonna be in the Obi-Wan show. I think they've already cast her and everything. Well, I mean, obviously they already casted. The show is coming out in a month, but hopefully they bring it up. I'm sure they are, but I really love that aspect. And it's also funny because a big Mandalorian character that was in a lot of the earlier Mandalore episodes in this show was voiced by Jon Favreau, who created the Mandalorian show, which is it's funny. It's just funny. He must really love the Mandalorian lore. Him and Dave Filoni, obviously. But going back to the last 4 episodes of the show, it's really cool how they were able to, well, really the last 3 episodes, 2 or 3 episodes, they were able to line them up with Revenge of the Sith. So the events that were happening in the last 2 or 3 episodes of Clone Wars was happening at the same time as Revenge of the Sith. And it's really cool because I think I heard about that like a while back when the episodes were first coming out in 2020. I wasn't watching it at the time. I wasn't too interested in watching it at the time. But I completely forgot that the last few episodes were going to take place at the same time as Revenge of the Sith. So whenever they're talking to Obi-Wan in the hologram, and he said that Count Dooku is dead, I was like, is he mistaken? Does he just think that Count Dooku is dead? Was he tricked or something? But then he was like, Anakin killed him while saving the Chancellor. And I was like, oh crap! So that's where we're at. And it was just cool, just knowing the events of Revenge of the Sith, and just seeing and hearing those events happening, like Obi-Wan going after General Grievous. You kind of put in your head like, oh crap, Order 66 is coming up, and just that dread that it gave you once you know when this is taking place and how quickly things are about to be set in motion. It really added a lot to these last few episodes, or at least before Order 66 happened in the show. It really gave you a really big sense of dread because you knew Order 66 was about to happen. You're like, crap, this is about to go down. But also going back to the line where Obi-Wan said that Count Dooku was killed, it also adds another level to Palpatine's manipulation and just how close the Jedi Order was to finding out everything before Order 66 happened, because they had just, I think in the previous season, they had just heard the name Sidious from Count Dooku. They just got that name. And before they were able to investigate any further with Count Dooku, Palpatine kind of baits Anakin into killing him and pretty much manipulates Anakin into killing Dooku before the Jedi are able to find out any more about Sidious, which we didn't know about this in the movies, obviously, but this show was able to add even more layers to Dooku's death in Revenge of the Sith. It just adds more weight to that moment, because once he's dead, that lead is also dead. And then you also have that, I think is in the sixth season as well, you also had Fives figure out about the chip in their head and try to warn everybody else, but they were so close to I think Fives even heard from Palpatine that he was the one controlling everything, so he actually knew the actual secrets behind it all, but he wasn't able to let Anakin and Rex know before he was eventually killed. So it is just all these things coming together of how close they were to figuring everything out, uncovering everything, putting a stop to everything. And Order 66 just happened right at the right moment for Palpatine. But then Order 66 happened, and I believe it was the second to last episode of the show. And it was cool how they played those audios from Revenge of the Sith with Samuel Jackson and Hayden Christensen's actual voices. It might have been jarring for other people because Hayden Christensen and Matt Lanter's voices are very different, but I really love that they actually played the actual audio from the movie. And Ahsoka Tano, which I haven't spoken much about because I was saving it for now, the last 4 episodes are just her episodes. She is the main driving force of it. Her and Maul, but her mostly were just the driving force of the last 4 episodes. I liked Ahsoka before that. I really liked her, but these last 4 episodes really made me love the character. Just her drive to do the right thing, like in the last episode, I believe, whenever she was trying to convince Rex not to kill the other clones because they were being manipulated and brainwashed because of the chips, because she was able to get Rex's chips out of his head. But all the rest of them had the chips in their head, so she didn't want to be the one to kill them, even though they were willing to kill her. Just everything about it really made me fall in love with this character in these last 4 episodes. And I'm not going to lie, the last 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes of the show, the last episode, first with Rex and Ahsoka, Ahsoka standing in front of the graves of all the clones that died in the ship that they just wrecked, and her dropping her lightsaber, symbolizing pretty much just the end of the whole Jedi Order, was just so great. The music was amazing, and then the scene with Darth Vader, we finally got to see Darth Vader in the Clone Wars animation style. That scene with him, those 2 scenes combined, however long they were, they legitimately made me tear up. I think it's the first time I've ever teared up at a Star Wars movie or show, but I was just sitting there just with tears in my eyes, and every time I rewatch it just makes me so depressed, because just seeing the relationship that Ahsoka and Anakin had together and built up together throughout the Clone Wars, and seeing how much they saved each other and how loyal they were to each other, and just for it to end like that. And I've seen people say that Darth Vader, his last hope for his old life was Ahsoka still being alive, potentially. So that scene at the end of Clone Wars, him finding her lightsaber and just assuming that she's dead, which we know in Rebels, he just figured she was dead this whole time. So I suppose that scene in Clone Wars was him just assuming that she had died when he saw her lightsaber. That was kind of his last moment, or his last strand of hope being cut, and him fully embracing the Darth Vader persona, because he had nothing else in his life from his old life. Padme was dead. He had so much hate for Obi-Wan. All the Jedi were dead. Well, most of the Jedi, well, at least all the Jedi that he was really close to, he assumed was dead, like Yoda and Ahsoka. They were all dead, and he didn't know that he had a son and daughter. So everybody that he was close to was gone at that moment. So all he had in his life now was Palpatine and the Empire. So it was a pretty big moment. Just having all that in my mind while rewatching that scene, it's one of the most heartbreaking scenes I've seen in any movie or show, honestly. And going back to Ahsoka Tano, it is really sad that they didn't bring Ashley Eckstein. I hopefully that's how you pronounce her last name. It's sad that they didn't have her bring her back for live action, because I really love her voice as Ahsoka Tano. I mean, Rosario Dawson's fine, but I think it's also another unpopular opinion that I have, that I don't think she's perfect as Ahsoka Tano. Look-wise, she is, but just her voice and her acting, I don't know. There's something about it that's off for me. Maybe I do need to rewatch her The Mandalorian, and I need to watch the Book of Boba Fett, the two things she's been in so far. But just rewatching scenes with her now, having seen Clone Wars, I just don't get the same vibe as the Ahsoka in the show. I mean, obviously there's a lot of time span that happened between this and this, but she was in Rebels, and that didn't take place too far before her appearance in Mandalorian. But that's just me. I don't think she's terrible. I don't think she's bad even, but I just don't get the same vibe as from her as in the show. Well, that's all. Honestly, all I really want to say. I'm sure there's more that I'm completely forgetting. Hopefully, there's not too much more that I'm forgetting. But I really, really enjoy this show. I really am glad that the Obi-Wan show really motivated me to start watching this show, because it would have really sucked if I just went my entire life without watching this show. It really adds to Revenge of the Sith. And every time I watch that movie now, it's going to have a lot more impact. Having watched this show, and just also knowing just what's going on at the same time as that movie with the Siege of Mandalore and all that stuff with Ahsoka Tano, is just, it really adds a lot more weight to, and it also makes Anakin's turn to the dark side not feel so abrupt. I do feel like it's a little abrupt in the movie, even with having seen Clone Wars now. I do still feel like it's a little abrupt, but it's not nearly as abrupt as it was beforehand, because you see a lot of his, like, him realizing that the Jedi Order isn't treating him the best and how he should be treating. They keep a lot of stuff from him, and just he feels like their way of doing things isn't the right way to do it all the time. And I really loved how they did that, and showing his anger and his hate that he has within him that comes out a lot, and his emotions that come out a lot in this throughout the show. And just a funny side note, also, the show really made me feel bad for droids, because obviously there's like R2-D2 and C-3PO and a lot of other droids that we grow close to, but then they're like so free about killing all the battle droids, and the battle droids like have they're kind of adorable, honestly. A lot of moments where they're like they don't really seem like they want to like be soldiers or whatever.
Sir, we need to get our power recharged.
Not this again! How could your power cells be so depleted?
You would not let us ride on one of those creatures with you, sir. If you would allow us to close down for a few moments.
Any more complaints?
No, I don't think so.
That's what I thought.
But it's just funny. I kind of felt bad for them sometimes whenever a Jedi would kill them. Like, they made such a point of like building up that the clones were all each their own person and not just made to be soldiers, even though that's what the point of them being made was for. And then for them just to kill the droids is just a funny thing that I noticed while watching this. And another thing that was funny that I had seen a meme before watching this, and I kind of noticed it as the show was going on, was that in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin tells General Grievous whenever he meets him at the beginning of the movie that he thought he'd be taller or something like that.
Anakin Skywalker, I was expecting someone with your reputation to be a little older.
General Grievous, you're shorter than I expected.
And because of that line, they had to come up with ways for Anakin to never have seen General Grievous in person in the show. So each time that there's a scene with General Grievous, there's always another Jedi that would go fight him. It was never Anakin. And I think there was even one of the Jar Jar Binks episode, which, I mean, I have to agree with a lot of people that the Jar Jar Binks episodes were some of my least favorite. But there's one Jar Jar Binks episode where Anakin and General Grievous are in the same place at the same time, but Anakin is knocked out, so he doesn't see General Grievous in person. So it's just funny, just the little tricks that they had to do to get around that line in Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, honestly, Dave Filoni is really good at storytelling, and I am glad that they have I think they've given him more power within the Star Wars shows and everything, and hopefully him and Jon Favreau keep making good Star Wars content like Clone Wars and Rebels, which I'll review hopefully soon. And honestly, if y'all haven't seen Clone Wars, I honestly would say watch it. There are guides that you can look up to where people have put together lists for episodes you can skip, because there are filler episodes. There are episodes that you can skip, and it's not really necessarily important that you see them for the overall story. So I will say that. But the story arcs that are good are really good, and I would really recommend watching it and at least looking through those lists and seeing which episodes are the most important for you to watch. I'm probably not going to give the show a ranking because it is set up more like an anthology, because the story arcs are so like separate. I mean, it's the same characters, it's the same war that's going on, but it'd be hard to grade the whole show as one grade, because there are story arcs that are really good, there's story arcs that are less good, there's some filler episodes, like I said just a little bit ago. So it's kind of hard to grade all of it at once, because it's not like one single storyline going all the way through. It's like story arcs split up in chunks. But I like I said, I do recommend you watch it, so that's just going to be my only way of grading it. But yeah, don't forget to comment below and let us know what you thought of Clone Wars. Have you watched it yet? Are you thinking about watching it? What's keeping you from watching it? Because I really do think that you would find at least some enjoyment, and especially the last 4 episodes. If anything, just watch the last 4 episodes. But at the same time, I don't even know if I should say that, because you need to grow attached to Ahsoka Tano and Anakin, their relationship with each other, to really feel that emotion that's in those last 4 episodes. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you later.